Hey everybody, I actually wanted to put out a short little video here on making your own fasteners just like you would tools or anything else. Like a lot of people are real big on making their own tools as needed, whether it's hand planes or hammers, axes, you name it, right? But a lot of smaller stuff gets missed. I've noticed quite a bit of it outside of just like traditional blacksmithing. And so for this video I wanted to show you how I make my own nails. Now I don't always make my own nails. Part of me making my own nails is really when I have a project that I wanted to have an antique look. So I wanted to look like they were hand forged nails. That's the idea. So with that, I've got a like a tri-fold display case I'm going to be making for a small family-owned business that sells soaps. They want something they can put their soaps in and not only transport it, but when they get to location, be able to open this tri-fold up and have a full display in conjunction. And aside from doing finger joints and dovetail joints and things like that on the casework, there is going to be some nail reinforcements in certain locations on the trays because they're going to be thinner wood. So I want to reinforce them if I can. So I'm going to make my own finish nails. So essentially I'm going to make finish nails with a peened over rounded head. And I'm going to show you how I do it. It's actually not too terribly complicated. If you have the time, I believe in doing it this way because, for one, I'm not going to go to the big box store or even a small store and pay $3.25 for a box of nails that might not necessarily be the right length. Like if I have to buy 1.5 inch and say 2 inch for two different aspects of a project, or I could just make my own. I'm just going to make my own. And then I don't have to buy $6 worth of nails. That in the future I could potentially use them, but in this case, for what I'm going for look-wise, I think it will look better. So, let's get to it. Okay, so real briefly, here's what I got going on. This is just regular steel coat hanger. I get these, like, handfuls of them from the, technically it's like the dump/recycling area up here where we've got, because people will throw these in the recycling bin, interestingly enough, but they don't. The city doesn't reclaim them, so they end up getting redistributed into regular trash for whatever reason. And as a result, I take them because I can get them in steel and I can get them in aluminum. The aluminum ones I don't use all that too terribly often unless I want to make my own like real small rivets for things, because aluminum works really good, but it's not very strong. This gauge isn't too terribly bad, but today we're going to be working with this. So this is steel. So I've got a steel coat hanger. I've got a pair of, these are cambered. So they've got, it's just to increase the load, similar to, they're like little mini bolt cutters, but these are wire cutters. I've had these for a ridiculously long time. These were originally a set I had issued to me that I got to keep when I was doing recon in the Army for cutting barbed wire and Constantine wire and things like that, because we used to snip wire and snook through and have all kinds of fun. But I kept them. So these work excellently because they're levered, so you don't have to kill yourself trying to cut through the wire with a huge intensity. I don't know what the leverage is. I think it's a 6-to-1. But anyways, I use these instead of diagonal cutters, but you can use diagonal cutters. Ball peen hammer. So I use a small one. I'm not quite sure. Oh, 12 ounce. This one is my 12 ounce. I have a larger one, but this is my 12 ounce. This is my smaller one. With this, I make sure that if anything at all, that the ball end is as smooth as possible. You don't want any dimples, dents, nicks, or anything, because it shows in your work. So I've actually had to take the time to polish this one for what I'm doing. And then a metal file. Just a fine file. And I'll show you what the whole point of the file is here in just a second. So, right off the bat, one of the things that I have found in regards to how I do this is that on my vise here, the flat treadle, the hammer treadle here, just so happens that from width-wise, from here to here, is 1.25 inches, and then this way is 1.5 inches. So when it comes to cutting these nails, I know exactly how long for this. If anything over that, obviously I have to remark, but in this case I'm going to be making 1.25 inch nails. So literally, I'll set my wire on here, I'll put the cutter on the flat side here, and I snip. So we'll start with 3. So you see here now I have an 1.25 inch rough cut nail, essentially, steel shank. So from here I'm just going to refine it, and that is where everything else comes into play. So as you watch me refine it, I'll stop in between to kind of explain what I'm doing, but from this point out, observe and learn. Okay, so at this point here, if you look closely, I've actually got the top of what's going to be the nail up about 1/4 inch past the vise jaws right here. I'm just going to start rounding over the top side with the ball peen hammer, and then once I get it started to where I'm starting to get quite a bit of a good mushroom, I'll actually drop it down on the vise to the finished height and then peen it down until I make contact with the top of the vise. Okay, so if you see there, you can see a fine mushroom starting to appear on the top of the head of the nail there. And that's what we're looking for. That's just the start. You can see it's already starting to get nice and rounded off. But what I'll do now is I'll look at it and see if it's deformed at all. And it is slightly deformed off to one side. So I will go ahead and just kind of gingerly remove that little bit of extra on that side there to kind of clean this shape up to get a little bit more round. And then from here I'll go ahead and put it in the vise, and I'm going to do just above where we were at. So I want to come up just a 1/16 above the jaw lines on the vise, and I'm really going to torque down on it. And so now I'm going to start working this thing down with the flat side first, just to kind of give me a flat spot. Now I'm just going to clean up this leading edge here that I rolled over so that it's a little more uniform. Okay, there you have it. So you can see there now I've got an actual mushroom head all the way around, a slight taper underneath it, and then it's finished out on top. So it's nice and round. And that's it. That's all I do. And then on the other end here, I did a fine chisel on the back side there, just to allow it to go in really well. And in the end, I ended up with an 1.25" finish nail. Now, really what I wanted was this nice round cap, because unlike standard finish nails where you countersink them, I actually want this to sit proud of the wood. So it's going to be flat, it'll be flush, I'm not going to hammer it down, it'll be flush to the top of the wood with this little round dome, you know, what they call proud of the wood. So it'll almost look like a little tack, almost like a furniture tack, a hammered furniture tack, but in this case it's a homemade nail. And that's it. And then I'll just keep going. There you have it. 2 down in like 9 minutes. So that's really all it takes. And if you look, so these, because I hammered them and whatnot, they're just slightly different in length. Ever so slightly different in length. But I can always file that down as needed. For these ones here, they're going into the end grain of some wood. So the length isn't going to, it's like it's going to protrude or pop out or anything like that. So you're not going to really see per se. I really wanted the finished end of this, and it only took me 9 minutes to make 2. I don't need to make a whole lot for this project. I really only need, I think, 12 altogether, so it's well worth the effort. So I'm going to make a couple shorter ones, and then I'll show you how they look once they're in some wood. Okay, so here I have a simple half lap joint. This is basically what I'm going to be using this on. So there's my half lap joint. It's not the greatest in the world. I just knocked it out real quick. But that's how we're going to use these nails to secure this joint. So I'm going to show you these little ones I made here. Go. Now, of course, I didn't pre-drill this, so, you know, the wood cracked. But what I wanted to show, though, is the fastening aspects of these. And you can see that, you know, they sit proud. You can see that they're just barely off the surface there. But they have a really nice look to them. And sometimes it's just worth the time to go ahead and make something on your own to get to come out the way you want without having to spend a bunch of extra money on it. Now, of course, when I do these myself, because of the larger gauge they are, on a real product, I would have pre-drilled this, but just to show you demonstration-wise, I don't care if this wood split. This is just 2 pieces of scrap anyways. Look, it's got a big wormhole in it. But more importantly, how it looks when it's done. Nice and proud. It's got a nice rounded surface to it. You can see here, you can get some beautiful hammer marks out of it. There it goes. You can see the little dimples in there. The way that it finishes out into the wood. Yeah, it's proud of the wood there. And of course, even in these two here, I made a little quick. You can see this one here has a little bit of a burr. This one right here has a little bit of a burr up there in that top corner. I could have filed that better, but for demonstration purposes, I'm not too terribly concerned about it. I just wanted to show you guys how I do mine. Finish nails when I want them for certain projects. I don't do this all the time. I'm a real big fan of hidden, you know, joints or just general wood joints versus fasteners. But on occasion, I do make stuff like this for, there it goes, to mount leather straps to boxes, or to mount hinges sometimes without, so I don't use screws. I'll make my own little nails like this because it's just easier for me to do it. I can make them out of anything I can get a hold of: copper, steel, aluminum, you name it. Anyway, so that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. I figured a little something new, and I say new because it's not like making nails and blacksmithing has been like, it's been around forever, right? It is a dying concept, though. I know I have seen a lot more homesteaders are taking the time to learn how to do blacksmithing and whatnot, which I think is really great. I mean, it really is, because guess what? When you don't have a tool, sometimes you just have to make it. Hardware stores are not always going to be there. Big box stores are not always going to be there. So sometimes it's just better to be able to make things on your own. And in this particular case, making nails out of just whatever material you can get a hold of, it works. It looks nice. It takes a little extra time. So if time is your thing, if you're more concerned about time over money, that's on you. But when I make stuff like I do, and my wood is all either naturally harvested or reclaimed, I make my own nails and whatnot, I have very minimal overhead. The only thing I'm really charging is the perceived price for the materials and my time. And so as a result of not having any real overhead other than lighting in my shop and electricity, it's pretty much 70%, 80% profit, depending on whether or not somebody wants something specific and I already have what I need. So anyways, I want to thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. I'll probably be chiming in on a few more things here and there. I've got some stuff coming up, some projects coming up that have some unique ways of doing things that I've kind of lost in the concept of machining and buying things. So as far as actually making hinges, I'm probably going to show a video on how I make my own hinges, little jewelry box hinges, even larger hinges, things like that. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.